Today we're going to be talking about a trick I use for generating melodies, or what we would have probably referred to maybe even just a year or two ago as basslines, using a probability technique. This is a variation on what I call the stevio, which is a technique where you're separating the gates from the pitches that you're sending. Mylar Melody does some pretty good explainers on this. I've also seen Hadaken use this technique. We're going to be using the Ornament and Crime module, which is a open source development platform. It's originally meant to be a quantizer, and then people developed additional apps for it, kind of playing on the quantizer theme, and then eventually it left quantizer land altogether. There's a alternate firmware for the Ornament and Crime that's called the Hemisphere, which lets you run two apps side by side, which is pretty convenient. I should get a number, but it might be 50 apps for the thing. And that list is constantly growing. The original developer of Hemisphere, I believe, isn't working on it as much as they used to in the past, and it's been expanded upon greatly by DJ Phaserville. So if you're playing the home game, we're talking Ornament and Crime, Hemisphere alternate firmware, Phaserville edition. The app that we're going to be using specifically today is called the TB3PO, which isn't, I don't think, developed by Phaserville, but it's included in the Phaserville edition. TB3PO is a 303 style sequencer, rather, that'll give you 303 patterns based off a clock. So you put in a clock and it will generate pitches for all of the steps, and then a number of gates depending upon some values you set. So let's take a look at that right now. Here on the Ornament and Crime, you've got on the left-hand side of the screen is going to be connected to the top two outputs. The left output, which has the blinking cable, is the pitch. So you can see higher pitches are going to be a brighter light on that cable. The right output is just the gate. The middle setting here on the TB3PO app is sort of the character or flavor of the sequencer. It goes from -7 through 0 to 7. At -7, your notes are going to be close together, but the gates are going to be dense. So you'll have a lot of hits or a lot of gates in your step length, but the pitch won't vary that much. All the way up at +7, you'll have wide variety in pitch and also a lot of gates. And then over by 0, you're going to have fewer gates. Here we're setting it to 2, -2, 4, and 7 to get a feel for the different flavors. Next, we'll mess around with pitch quantization, leaning into the quantizer heritage. You can also set the root note, and all of this can be controlled from control voltage if you want, using the inputs. The Ornament and Crime in TB3PO is actually laying down pitches for each step, but only triggering some of the steps. So you can see in the lighted cable, the brightness continues to change even while the note isn't playing out loud. But we want to trigger additional steps using a probability feature, and for that we're going to use the Schottky ratchet over here to the right of the case. So let's remove the trigger cable from the Ornament and Crime and put it into the track 3 on the Schottky ratchet for some variation in the gates. As promised, the notes are still being sent and the triggers are coming from the ratchet over here. So now these steps are off and these steps are on, and we're going to start messing around with the randomization function here to see what we can get. This will cause some of the steps that are off to be triggered and some of the steps that are on to be muted. This will be in a percentage basis proportional to the randomization value we set on the Schottky. Now when we change the pitches on the Ornament and Crime, we'll get a new set of notes, but the pattern will stay the same. So let's do that now and look for something that sounds nice. Okay, I like this one. Let's turn down random and get a feel for it. Okay, got it. Let's turn random back up and mess with the Ornament and Crime some more. We'll start with setting the notes pattern to 4 steps. For a 16-step pattern on the ratchet right now, we've got 4 pitches looping 4 times. Maybe this will give us a less melodic feel. Okay, now we've got 8 pitches, which loops twice in our 16-step pattern. That gives us a different feel with maybe a more call and response flavor. Let's try 7 now and see what that feels like. The gates are going to stay the same, but the notes are going to rotate on a different pattern. The gates will rotate at 16 steps and the notes will rotate at 7. So this should feel maybe a little random, maybe like a melody. And in the end, our melody will be choosing from 7 different notes. Here's 32 steps of notes, which keeps the call and response feel, but gives a longer phrase. Let's get a look at 31 steps. Similar to 7, but this is a longer phrase with more pitches to choose from. Now here's 3 steps. And 9 steps. Okay, I'm going to mess around with this for a while and see what we come up with. Hopefully some of this was useful for you, and we'll see you next time.